welcome back to the Plunder Den. In this week's episode, we're going to be building some fortifications. So I really want to revisit this topic and spend some more time, exploring it a little bit further, really. I had built a frontier fort. We built the blockhouse, which is just back here behind me here, and also those little scatter bits, the chevaux de frise and the cheval de frise, and those little rock spiked traps for the bay, hid under the water line. So we kind of built those in the past and on previous episodes, and I want to expand on that. So I'll show you the bits. So let's just talk about them individually. So I built two of each of these again, 3 different types as usual. So this one would be more of right next to your doorway. So they'd force or channel your enemy into a certain area that you want to. They call it a kill box, forcing them into a certain spot where you would like to engage the enemy in your advantage. And so that's the one type there. This also could be just put right on the battlefield and used to stop cavalry charges. And more of a portable kind of a spike unit there. And this would be more medieval type, but definitely could be used in this time frame too. It's just timbers. That's would have been used for the same thing the fort was made out of. So then I kind of made it a more of a defensive piece. So this is kind of just a portable wall that you can move into the battlefield, or let's say you're a sieging army and you needed something to protect yourself. Now this definitely would have been used throughout history in different time frames. Definitely for defending the attackers, really. But it could also be used as defense on a fortification too. Just want a temporary wall that you're putting in a certain area. But we're going to build a couple of those. Definitely you would have seen those in, you can see them in North America, all the way to the Japanese culture. They used them a lot to protect themselves. Portable wooden timbered walls. So then the third piece is this. This is similar to the trap that I put in the bay, but that one sits under the water. This one actually sits right near the shoreline, so it's a little off into the coast a little bit, a little off where the water's not too deep. But it stops like longboats and other things from getting into the shallows and really hard obstacles. Now it has fish netting in it and like seaweed and stuff like that, so you can't like swim through it and get your infantry through it. So they have to really go around it. So this forces them to go to certain areas that you want, again, and creating that kill box. So that definitely is the other item. So let's just take a look at that. I've been pushing it around here, but let's take a look at it. It's just kind of made out of scrap wood that they've maybe found on the water side. Maybe it was a destroyed ship. And just put it together with some rope and just put all this stuff on there, and just really being a real deterrent on the shoreline. So building some of those guys. All right, so those are the 3 objects that we're going to be making, the 3 fortifications. And I just want to do a brief update on the global campaign. Remember, this week is, I just want to get this right, to upgrade the flagship. So this is week 10. This is the one I've been talking about where you can win the bark. So I painted up a bark for you guys. This is the actual bark you're going to win. I've made some sails for it, so you won't have to make any sails for it. And I've made an anchor, painted it all up. All these pieces are not glued in, so you can pull it all apart and fold it down, which will make it easy to ship it to you guys. And then we got cannons are all painted. You got 4 cannons, 4 swivel guns. And I do plan on painting some flags. So I wanted to do kind of like a British and a pirate flag, so you had some different options in here. All right, so just take a quick look at that there. So that's what you're playing for this week. And really, the person that plays the most matches as the English faction this week. So this is kind of open for anybody. Anybody that plays a whole bunch of games over the English faction this week is going to win that bark. I'm going to send that bark out to you. All right. If you guys like what we're doing here in the Plunder Den, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den and get first-hand information when we start these kind of projects. All right, everyone, let's get down to the table. Let's start painting and let's start crafting. Okay, I figured I'd start off just showing some of the materials. We got some balsa wood here from Amazon. We got some flat pieces, square pieces. That's just my bag of hobby wood that's left over. It's just my bits. And then I got some gemstones from Walmart. These are going to be used for bolts on the metal fronts on these pieces. We got some twine and assorted popsicle sticks, some dowels, and we got some coffee stir sticks. And those are just some more balsa wood. And we also got some cardstock that we're going to use to make those metal pieces. All right, so I started off, as I usually do, measure them out with a mini, and just seeing how tall I want these portable walls to look. So I got 2 pieces of balsa wood for the 2 edges, and then we have assorted dowels. Well, actually, not assorted. They're one size. You can pick whatever size you want, but this is the size I picked. And then I used a hobby knife to texturize them and make points on them, because I wanted them to have a pointed edge on both sides. So then I used some tacky glue and just glued them together and let them dry for a bit. You don't have to let them dry for too long. You can see I put quite a bit of generous amount of glue on there. And then I made these little fronts for these pieces with that's a balsa wood actually, and I just kind of texturized it first, and then I cut them in half because they're a little bit too wide, but cut in half, they're the perfect size. Now that balsa wood's easy to cut in half with just a regular knife, a box cutter, or that hobby knife is fine. And you can see I just kind of made them as just 2 frames on the front on here, and eventually I'm going to attach those metal components to that, but I just wanted like a frame on the front of that. So then I moved on to the second piece that we're building. There's kind of those offshore spike traps there that I built. So those are 2 larger dowels, and I kind of carved them up, texturized them, and then I just really used just scraps. Like there's popsicle sticks that I broke here, pieces of balsa wood. I kind of wanted to look like it was parts from a shipwreck or something like that, right? I just found scrap wood to build these offshore fortifications. So then I kind of just used hot glue to glue the ends on first, and the centerpiece, just so it can be freestanding like this. And then I used white glue to glue the rest of the pieces in. Now, I plan on using that balsa wood to make a back frame or support for those freestanding walls so they stand on their own. And then just showing you I'm making a second one of those offshore fortifications. So this is after I've added all the pieces. I do want to note that I added barbecue skewers to there too. That's the really skinny pointy pieces on there as well, just to add to it a little bit. And then there's that framework. I used coffee stir sticks and balsa wood to make that framing on the back, just so it freestands like that. And you can see I put a bit of a slant on it. I just sanded the bottom of the front just so it sits kind of at an angle. So this is the start of the third piece. These are the fortifications by the doorway. And I just wanted to show you that as well. Those are the pieces you're going to need: coffee stir sticks and balsa wood to build those pieces. So those are, you kind of make just like a little housing or a frame for your dowels to sit in. Now, a special note, when you put the dowels in there, don't make them too long. Otherwise, you'll make this front heavy and it'll just tip over. So don't go too crazy on the size of those. You just want to make them a reasonable size so that it doesn't tip over. And you can see I've kind of fanned it out. So I put the large piece in the middle first, that large dowel. And then I kind of added 4 on each side, kind of 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. So you got kind of an even amount, and fanned them out. So you got kind of a nice look to it. Just makes it look fuller, essentially. So now we're going to move to that metal detail. This is cardstock, and I just cut it a little bit smaller than the wood paneling that I put on the front of the door fortification and these freestanding ones. And you can see that it just fits right inside there. You just want like a metal plate that's attached. Now we're going to take these gemstones, and we're going to use the smallest ones in the package and use them as bolts. Right now they look like gemstones, but once you paint it all with black craft paint, you can't tell. It looks like bolts on metal. And we're going to put those on there. For the large door fortifications, I used those longer pieces with 3 bolts on it. And then for the freestanding ones, I put 2 on there, but only 2 bolts on a piece as well. Then I added this twine detail to these offshore fortifications, and really they're just it look like kind of like the docks, just use some rope on there to hold them together. So this is after I added the metal details. I also added another support beam with a coffee stir stick on these door fortifications. This is after I've completed everything on there. So those are pretty all fabricated. Everything's done here now. These spike traps are ready to go. And that's just showing you after they're all completed. So now we're going to move into the paint stage. So I saved the fish netting, kind of / seaweed kind of stuff that I want to add to these details to these offshore fortifications. I usually wait till I paint them. And that way I can paint them right to the piece. They stick nicely because you have the paint underneath that you've already put on, and then the paint you put over top on the netting, and let some sit there. And I didn't completely cover them as much as I would like the docks. I put quite a generous amount, and they dry and they harden, and you're able to add dry brush them and stuff on there afterwards. So then we're going to start with our undertone, the real brown, and we're going to cover everything as I always do. After that black is dried, I wait 24 hours just to make a note to make sure all that black is dry before I went to the real brown. And then I move on to the bark brown. So I'm going through all the colors I normally would for undertones on all my terrain pieces. So you can see this is after I've added the bark brown. And we'll move to the Pablo. This adds some brightness to it. And just going to do all the pieces again. So you've seen this done before. Just kind of go over the steps I did to add the colors to these terrain pieces. Again, I want them to feel like they're part of the same world and they match all the other fortifications that I've already built. So then I went to some burnt sienna. I've been starting to use that color a little bit more, and this yellow ochre to lighten certain areas, especially the tips of all these spears and sticks and timbers that I have here. I wanted to light those up a little bit. I'm going to move to my Army Painter dry brush now and use them to paint the tips and stuff on here. And you can see I added a little bit to the middle of the wood just to add a little brightness to it. Just starting to hit some of the planks in some of the areas. You can see I touched the rope details on here. So just kind of highlighted wherever I wanted to add a little brightness to it. So that's the camel color. Again, I'm going to go over top of the tips and some of the wood details just to kind of give it a weathered look and hit that rope as well. So you can see I'm just starting with dark tones and working my way up to lighter tones. So now we're going to address that fish netting and add some aging to my wood. So I like to use grays for that. So we got our Necromancer cloak. We got uniform gray. And we got ash gray, which is your lightest. And then I like to, for the fish netting, put army green. And then this military shader wash. So the green is just going to be added to the fish netting. All right, so that's after I've completed everything. So let's just take a look through everything. You can see I've added some grays in there. I added some of it on the actual timbers themselves. So now we're going to add gunmetal to the metal components and cover it with strong tone and dry rust. That's how we're going to address that. And then Agrax air shader and the skeleton horde here, the contrast paint. I'm going to add that to everything. Just kind of where I feel there should be some shading and dark. Add 2 little pieces of that as well. So this is after I've added all those washes and colors to the netting and the metal. And now we're going to address some of the wood. So dark wood, speed paint, hardened leather. I'm going to add some plant life with jungle green here and commando green. And drake tooth is for the tips of the spears and stuff. And then the black, I'm just going to add some where I want it to be a little bit darker shading. I add that black. So I've really been using that speed paint a lot on the wood to details. I really like the way it looks. All right, so that's pretty much the final details. Let's take a final pass through. Here's our little temporary wall components here. Again, this is using a defense situation here, but you could use them as a help the attacking force. But of course, I think they're actually a benefit to the attacking force here in this one. I actually played this match out, and they came in handy kind of come up to that main wall to get a place to at least give you some cover. So we got the Spanish forces here protecting this. I'm going to call it a Spanish fort, really. They got a Spanish mission in there. We're moving to our second piece. So this is where I mentioned the door fortifications. Just forces people into the kill box, which is the doorway where there's you can see there's an artillery piece there on the other side. And there's those offshore fortifications. And we're just going to take a quick look at the bark that's up for grabs this week for the person that plays the most English matches. All right, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. And thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.